Hello, I'm not there. I'm here. This is my third time trying to record this. The past two times I've gotten almost 10 minutes into this lecture and then my webcam quits and I want to throw my computer out the window and anything else that's within reach, including my dog, my cup of coffee. Um, I'm sure there's other things that I could throw out the window. I've decided not to because I think I would regret that decision later, but nonetheless, or punch myself in the face. That's also kind of been something that I've wanted to do as a result of this. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed. And it's too bad because I said some funny, weird stuff in the other couple ones, and I had this weird filter on that made my face look like a chipmunk. But I think that was the thing that made this keep crashing. So you just have to imagine me as a chipmunk. Um, or maybe not. You don't need to if that. But I mean, and the other thing with this is I figure if one Kruger's pretty good, then four Krugers is a little better, maybe, or not. Maybe that would be a horrific thing for some of you. Anyway, chapter 7's a big one. So why don't you open up your book to page 113? I went through and got your pages, so 113 in your book. We're going to try this one more time. The very beginning of this, the beginning of chapter 7, it was a curiosity about Gatsby when, at its highest, the lights in the house failed to go on one Saturday night. As obscurely as it had begun, his career as Trimalchio was over. If you look at the opening page, the title page with that little poem, I think in 6th hour I brought it up, maybe in 5th hour I forgot, um, which says, "Then wear the gold hat, if that will move her. If you can bounce high, bounce for her too, till she cry, lover, gold-hatted, high-bouncing lover, I must have you." Which is basically what Gatsby's been doing. Wearing fancy clothes and jumping up and down as high as he can over and over and over. And not literally jumping up and down, but throwing big parties, doing all this stuff just for Daisy to try to get her attention. Which relates to Trimalchio. I'll go forward to 115, your book. I don't know if you've noticed references to weather and temperature in this. It's come up a number of times, including when Daisy went over to Gatsby's house the first time. It was pouring rain, and then after they had their big talk and things were good, then the sun came out. And here, it's hot, 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 hot. They keep saying it over and over and over because things are pretty intense right now. Because this is the lead up to the poo hitting the fan. Go to 117 in your book, please. So they're all together. Gatsby's really excited for this. They're at Tom and Daisy's house, getting ready to go into New York to have kind of this big confrontation. And their daughter comes in. And I can't even remember if this girl is named. I want to say it's Penny or Patty or something, but it's not mentioned frequently. It's almost like this girl is just their kid. But clearly they don't pay much attention to it. But for Gatsby, this is kind of an eye-opening thing. Gatsby and I, in turn, leaned down and took the small, reluctant hand. Afterward, he kept looking at the child with surprise. I don't think he'd ever really believed in its existence before. It's hard to envision his dream of going back and repeating the past and just kind of pretending this last 5 years never happened when they got a kid. Okay, because that's really concrete proof that their marriage did take place, and there's a whole bunch of Daisy's life that Gatsby doesn't really know anything about. Go to 117, which is where we're at. By 117, I was speaking in code from 120. Another reference that's come up a number of times are Nick and Gatsby talking about Daisy's voice and trying to understand what it is that's so appealing to Gatsby about her voice. And the flip side of that, I guess, is why it's so irritating to us. She's got an indiscreet voice, I remarked. It's full of... I hesitated. Her voice is full of money, he said, suddenly. That was it. I'd never understood it before. It was full of money, and that was the inexhaustible charm that rose and fell in it, the jingle of it, the symbol song of it, high in the white palace, the king's daughter, the golden girl. Now, they come out, and this is a good little plot twist. Gatsby offers to take everybody, and then Tom says, "Gatsby, you drive my car, I'll drive your car." Gatsby says, "I don't think there's much gas." "Plenty of gas," said Tom boisterously. He looked at the gauge. "And if it runs out, you can stop at a drugstore. You can buy anything at a drugstore nowadays." A pause followed this apparently pointless remark. Now, Tom's hinting at something. Okay? When he says you can buy anything at a drugstore nowadays, one of Gatsby's businesses is he was in the drug business, owned drugstores. And what he's talking about is you can buy anything, including illegal liquor, at these drugstores. So, it seems like it's a pointless remark, but Daisy caught it, and as if I'd only heard it described in words, passed over Gatsby's face. Gatsby got it too. he knew what they were hinting at. So they switch cars, and Gatsby and Daisy go in Tom's car, and Tom, Nick, and Jordan drive in Gatsby's car. And go to page 123, please. They stop at the gas station on the way in to fill up, and Tom is filling up Gatsby's yellow car. Okay. Then as Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg's eyes came into sight down the road, I remembered Gatsby's caution about gasoline. After a moment, Tom threw on the brakes impatiently, and we slid to an abrupt, dusty stop under Wilson's sign. After a moment, the proprietor emerged from the interior of the establishment and gazed hollow-eyed at the car. He's just shocked at how this car. Okay. And then he asked for some gas. That kid's making noise. With an effort, Wilson left the shade and supported the doorway, and breathing hard, unscrewed the cap of the tank. In the sunlight, his face was green. Wilson is not doing well, okay, because he knows something's going on, and he knows he's getting ready to take Myrtle away, because he heard that she's having an affair with somebody, but he doesn't know who it is. Okay, upstairs. So on page bottom of 124, top of 125. Alex, come on up, buddy. Sorry. Over the giant ash heaps, the giant eyes of Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg kept their vigil, but I perceived after Alex. Sorry, he keeps calling for me. Over that giant ash heap, the giant eyes of Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg kept. Hi. Hi. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry. It's hard to really do anything when you have little kids. Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg kept their vigil, but I perceived after a moment that other eyes were regarding us with peculiar intensity from less than 20 feet away. So Myrtle is upstairs, locked in this apartment. She looks down and sees Tom driving this yellow car, and she also sees Jordan, who she assumes to be his wife. Okay, now this confusion is important because this is going to set up the accident at the end. And without this, the whole accident doesn't really work at the end. Go forward to page 127, please. So they get into town and they rent a hotel. The scene involving Biloxi, to be honest with you, I don't get. It doesn't seem to fit, but it seems like they're hinting at something. And for a while I thought it might be Gatsby, that he was just at this, because it seemed like no one knew him. And they go on about it for a while. But if you know what that means, then tell me, because I would be grateful. Going on a little bit to 132 in your book. So they have this big fight. And this is a great scene because Gatsby does get Daisy to say that she never loved him. And then Tom kind of presses her on this, that listing off all these times when ostensibly she was in love with him. And at the bottom of this page, we're at 132 on your page. Please don't, she says. Her voice was cold, but the rancor was gone from it. She looked at Gatsby. There, Jay, she said. But her hand, as she tried to light a cigarette, was trembling. Suddenly she threw the cigarette and the burning match on the carpet. Oh, you want too much, she cried to Gatsby. I love him now, isn't that enough? I can't help what's past. She began to sob helplessly. I did love him once, but I loved you too. Now, a couple things about that. First of all, don't smoke cigarettes. But if you do, or you know someone who does, and you're standing inside an apartment, someone lights a match to light their cigarette, and then lights a cigarette, and then throws both burning cigarette and lit match onto the carpet, what does that say about the person? It says one of those really good, wealthy people are careless. And that's kind of what she's doing to both Gatsby and Tom at this point. She's kind of throwing this away with either of them. And right when she throws this down, she's basically saying to Gatsby she can't repeat the past. She can't help what's past. It's past. There's nothing more to do about it. And then we go forward a little bit, and on 133, so then Tom lays out all these things that Gatsby's been doing. He and this Wolfsheim bought up a lot of side street drugstores here and in Chicago and sold grain alcohol over the counter. That's one of his little stunts. I picked him for a bootlegger the first time I saw him, and I wasn't far wrong. And there's also other things that Gatsby's done that Tom couldn't find out about, that people were too afraid to talk about. Daisy hears all of these things, and everything starts to fall apart. So at the bottom of 134, top of 135, it passed, and he began to talk excitedly to Daisy, Gatsby, denying everything, defending his name against accusations that had not been made, but with every word she was drawing further and further into herself. So he gave that up, and Only the dead dream fought on as the afternoon slipped away, trying to touch what was no longer tangible, struggling unhappily, undespairingly toward the lost voice across the room. It's over. Okay? And then Tom says pretty much the toughest thing he could say. Now, I want you to put yourself in the situation. You're dating someone, and you're concerned that that person was either going to cheat on you or leave you for someone else. Someone else is there with you, and after an argument, you're so convinced that your boyfriend or girlfriend is going to stay with you that you say, yeah, go ahead, you take her home, or you take him home, demanding the person that wanted to take your boyfriend, girlfriend away from you, drive them home. Because you can imagine what a terribly awkward conversation that would be on the way home. He's so sure he's got Daisy that he doesn't even care, and he would think it kind of fun that those two would suffer on the way home. Nick remembers it's his 30th birthday. On page 135, we get a little hint here, and this could be something that you write about. Um, it says, right before that kind of paragraph break, but there was Jordan beside me, who, unlike Daisy, was too wise ever to carry well-forgotten dreams from age to age. Jordan doesn't really dream about anything, okay? And Nick refers to her as too wise to do that, because all the other characters, whether it's Tom, whether it's Daisy, whether it's Gatsby, they are all kind of living in the past. In some level, Tom wants to be the football player again and get that kind of glory and glamour, and Daisy wants to go back and maybe be with Gatsby, and we know what Gatsby wants, but that doesn't work. And maybe Nick is saying that it's better to be someone like Jordan who just doesn't really care. She understands what she is, and she understands what other people are, and she doesn't really make any pretense to be anything better than that. She just is who she is, and she's not really longing for things in the past or any of that stuff. Go forward to 139 in your book. So they get the car accident, and they're driving home, and first Tom's excited about this. He thinks it'll be some business for Wilson. But this is where the problem lies, because on the way home from New York, Gatsby and Daisy drove home in Gatsby's car, and Daisy was driving. Okay, now, when they're trying to piece together what happened with this accident, there's some things we don't know. We don't think that Daisy knew who Myrtle was. Okay, because Myrtle saw the yellow car coming, and she was running out to try to escape. Because she ran out thinking it was Tom in the car, and that she could jump in the car with Tom, and then Tom would drive them away, and they would just leave Wilson, and she could escape. But Myrtle was driving it. I'm sorry, Daisy. We think Daisy was driving it. If either Daisy or Gatsby knew who Myrtle was, that changed this whole thing, because that could really look like they intentionally just ran her over. Daisy would want to, because it was someone Tom was cheating with, and if it was Gatsby driving, it wasn't. But if Gatsby was driving and knew it was Myrtle, then he might just want to run over Tom's mistress. Go to 143. So Tom's pretty upset about this, and Wilson obviously is terribly upset by this. On 143. So Nick shows up at Tom and Daisy's house, and Gatsby is hiding in the bushes watching because he's afraid that Tom might do something to Daisy. So his suspicion is maybe Daisy did know, and Tom might do something about this. So the plan was if there was trouble, she'd flick the lights, and then he would run in and fight Tom, I guess. I don't know. But as Gatsby's kind of piecing this together, he said, well, I tried to swing the wheel, he broke off, and suddenly I guessed at the truth. Was Daisy driving? Yes, he said after a moment. But of course I'll say I was. You see, when we left New York, she was very nervous. And if you see the way Gatsby reacts to this, he's not upset about this at all. He doesn't care about the accident. He doesn't care about Myrtle. All he cares about that this may be the thing that finally wrecks relationship with Daisy. Yeah, the height of carelessness. And then if you look at the very end of this chapter, I'm sorry, so probably 144 in your book, a new point of view had occurred to me, and this is kind of what I was getting at. Suppose Tom found out that Daisy had been driving. He might think he saw a connection in it. He might think anything. I looked at the house. There were 2 or 3 bright room windows downstairs, and a pink glow coming from Daisy's room. You can see Tom and Daisy talking. Daisy and Tom were sitting opposite each other at the kitchen table with a plate of cold fried chicken between them and 2 bottles of ale. He was talking intently across the table at her, and in his earnestness his hand had fallen upon and covered her own. Once in a while she looked up at him, and they nodded in agreement. They weren't happy, and neither of them had touched the chicken or ale, and yet they weren't unhappy either. There was an unmistakable air of natural intimacy about the picture, and anybody would have said that they were conspiring together. This doesn't bother them that much because they know they're going to get away with it. and there's nothing anyone can do. And, I mean, if they're conspiring, who do you think they're going to pin it on? They're going to pin it on Gatsby, which is what Tom would love to do. Now, the end of this chapter is a pretty depressing one, so he's going to stay there all night till Daisy goes to bed. Gatsby put his hands in his coat pockets. This is the last page of the chapter. Gatsby put his hands in his coat pockets and turned back eagerly to the scrutiny of the house, as though my presence marred the sacredness of his vigil. So I walked away and left him standing there in the moonlight, watching over nothing. So, first time we meet Gatsby, or see Gatsby, he's looking out, staring at the green light. Last time, he's just staring at the house, but there's nothing there for him to look at anymore. The dream is gone. It's a depressing ending. So, that's where we're at. Thank you for listening. Sorry I wasn't a chipmunk, and I will see you tomorrow.